Hey, how you doing? This is John, and welcome to Comicbook Team Up, where me and RJ make fun of people like Tonicmole. How you doing?
Hey,
I just want to say I think I have the snappiest trailer of all comic books. That is just snappy.
I
very
agree.
nice.
It is ear catching.
Yeah, Kyle Prometheus made it for me. I'm eternally grateful. It's I can watch it over and over again. So anyway, this is Comic Book Team Up. This is the alternating show. 1 week it's over here, 1 week it's over there. On over there being RJ's The Fourth Age, and we have another person. So it's like a three-person show with the rotating third wheel. So how you doing? Welcome our third wheel, Tonicmole. How's it going?
It's going great.
Yep, Tonicmole is one of my favorite people. You've been on my channel many times. I enjoy talking with you, and there's an Easter egg. There's a reference to Tonicmole in Heroic Tales #1. If anybody gets it, Tonicmole will send you all of his comics express overnight delivery free. How's that?
Yeah, maybe.
No, that's a joke. Everybody, do not take it seriously. But yes, there is a reference to Tonicmole in my comic book. See if anybody picks it up.
If they find it, I'll send the digital comics.
Oh, there you go. I was just making a joke, but there you go. See, that's what a mensch is. When was the last time you were called a mensch? RJ, when was the last time anybody was called a mensch? That's like a grandpa word.
I have no idea.
Yeah, you're the only human I've heard use that word.
Yeah, it's funny because growing up in New York, at public school, I had old teachers that would break into Yiddish, so it was fun. I had like old math teachers that reminded me of like Jackie Gleason or Ben Grimm or something. RJ, throw your link in the private chat and I'll put it in the public chat.
All right.
I can't speak anymore, guys. It's so happy it makes me want to slap my pappy. Hope you're all having a blessed day. I got a whole bunch of links all of a sudden from Tonicmole. So Tonicmole, tell us about yourself. What are you working on right now?
Okay.
Why copy and paste links?
So, first up, Saving the World #11 is funding on Fund My Comic. And we had already funded, we've got about $8,000 on Kickstarter. Nice. So I was doing like a second chance thing as I wait for the comics to come back from the printer. And we're doing okay. We just got $58 there, but I think all my people already bought it on Kickstarter.
Is this your first time on Fund My Comic?
No, this is second time.
Okay. Because I launched on Fund My Comic. I did pretty well.
Right.
Okay, have you used Fund My Comic at all?
No, I haven't. I haven't had a campaign in a while. Going to start Tommy's Valley #2 up soon, but I haven't had one for a while. I'm trying to get Crom out.
Because I did my first campaign. I didn't want to leave any money on the table. I did Fund My Comic, then I did Kickstarter, and then I did Indiegogo. But I think I did it in a dumb way. Like I put one cover on Fund My Comic, another cover on Kickstarter, and then I spaced it out too. So 6 months later, I don't think people were too excited to get another cover.
Well, and see, but that's like, I used to, my backers used to kind of split between Indiegogo and Kickstarter, and I just kept them. I'd run the campaigns at the exact same time, so people just chose as they wanted. And over time, they just increasingly moved to Kickstarter until I just abandoned Indiegogo altogether.
Well, I found Indiegogo was difficult to work with.
Yeah.
RJ, how do you feel?
It's the only thing I've ever actually used. Well, I did put up a campaign on Kickstarter, but it got zero traction, like zero. So I just don't feel comfortable using it because Indiegogo is the only thing I really know.
Yeah, I recommend Fund My Comic just because if you have any problems, you can talk with Luke Stone directly, and he's. Fortunately, I didn't have any problems on the other sites, but I found Indiegogo to be like difficult to as a backer. I don't like that. I buy Thomas Valiant or I buy Saving the World, and it's like I have to manually remove $6. I'm not tipping Indiegogo. Sorry, I find that's like predatory on people who don't know better. Like if I was on Indiegogo and I sent my brother and he's just like, I thought your comic was $10. I'd feel like I owed him money. You know what I mean? So that bothers me. But as a campaign guy, I found it difficult to get the information and fulfill orders.
Oh, it's a freaking nightmare, and they haven't updated the thing in so long. Now, for me, at some point, it wasn't too long ago. I don't know what issue it was, but there was something with my Kickstarter getting the campaign verified or something, and I kind of wanted to jump ahead. So I was like, well, I'll do my Indiegogo. I'll launch it first, and then my Kickstarter like a week later. And the Indiegogo still being the first campaign, nothing, and then the Kickstarter made like 8 or 9,000. So, and I think it, it has a lot to do with just where your specific readers are at. Because I know some people do good on Indiegogo, but not Kickstarter. I have no traction anywhere but Kickstarter, even though I started on Indiegogo, really, because my first issue funded on Indiegogo. Then I did a Kickstarter, but then with issue 2, then I started to do them at the same time, and yeah, just over time it just became Kickstarter, and then every time I'd try to do a Indiegogo, nothing, and so I was like, I just give up.
Well, it's funny, and RJ, let me know if you feel the same way or not. But like, I started out this whole bright-eyed, bushy-tailed. I didn't know what I was doing, just stumbling along, making every possible. Now I feel like the 1,000-yard stare veteran. Like I'm going into my second campaign, like knowing secrets from the homeland. You know what I mean? Like, I'm kind of eager to like. Not redeem. I don't think I did anything. Well, I did do something wrong. I think I divided the the poor Mike Gustovich cover didn't sell as well as I really wanted it to. I think it's a great cover, but 6 months later, my fans already bought my comic. You know what I mean? So I will take everything I learned from campaign number 1 and try to run like a well-oiled machine. What do you feel, RJ? Did you know what you were doing?
Yeah, no, I honestly think it makes it a lot easier once you actually have 1 or 2 under your belt just to set this darn thing up. But again, I think what you're talking about is the red tape. That's the thing that just mucks everything up. It's because, you're trying to set up stuff and for bank accounts and all that kind of stuff. And you don't have it. If they change the rules at all since last time, you got to jumping through hoops.
Oh, talk about it. I'm not telling tales out of school, but you set up a Stripe account so you can collect the money. I set it up wrong, and now I call up Luke. Literally, call up Luke Stone in a panic. I'm like, I got $7,000, and it's gonna be like transferred to some like guy in Nigeria, Prince, I think it was, and he's like, calm down, we'll fix. He's like the calmest guy. He's got that pastor voice. He's like, yeah, we'll fix it. And I'm freaking yelling and screaming. I believe it or not, guys, I kind of go overboard every once in a while. I seem all calm, but everyone's like, when these post office picked up my last boxes, I had all these pint glasses in box. I called for pickup. They picked everything up. They put it in the truck. That guy went home for work. The next guy gets in the truck the next day, sees a bunch of boxes, returns them to me. So I'm like, now what? And then marks them all delivered. So I got to get like new shipping stamps. They said bring them back on Saturday. We'll send them out. But anyway, I went berserk. Believe it or not, I go berserk, Tonicmole. So anyway, I'm berserk on the phone with Luke, and he's just like listening to me, ranting, calms me down, and we fixed it. So you can't. My point being is you don't get that service on Indiegogo or Kickstarter. So there you go. We got Tonicmole in the chat. You're in 2 locations at once. I didn't know you could do that.
I'm everywhere.
You're like wep. A name
Wep.
Yeah, wep. Can I give a spoiler, Tonic? Wet could be in multi. May even be in issue 2 of Heroic Tales.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I hate to interrupt here, but I'm coming in the dark. I don't know about Tonicmole's book at all. So why don't you explain what it's about, Tonicmole?
This is typical of me. I introduced one guy to the same guy 16 times and introduced him to somebody new. Tonicmole beat RJ from the 4th Age. RJ from the 4th Age beat Tonicmole. Tonicmole, tell us about your comic.
Okay, so I launched it in 2020. It was a comic that I drew like in 2010, but then just threw it into a Tupperware because I had no success even getting a comic printed or anything like that. I drew a lot of them, but anyways, and then in 2020, I I met guys like I think I went on Peter Palmiotti's podcast or something, and I met a bunch of people who'd crowdfunded comics and stuff, and I was like, well, that's cool. So I dug out my comic, and I took pictures of it with my iPad and kind of re-inked over it a little, and funded it. And I mean, it made like $2,500, which was a lot at the time. And then I just started writing and drawing new ones, and been doing that since 2020. And I'm working on issue number 12 right now. I'm drawing issue number 12. Number 11 is at the printers, and we just had, that's our Saving the World #1 anniversary edition. So with a new cover, and it made 5,000. So it did, or pretty dang close to 5,000. And that was just a new cover for the original comic. And so my comic, though, is, before that, I really drew a lot of R. Crumb type stuff. I didn't, not since I was a little kid did I do superheroes. So I was doing a lot of satire and creepy stuff like that. But that in 2010 or whatever, I just got the bug or something and drew a superhero deal. So then I went all in and decided to do a full-on superhero universe and all that. And so the story, though, is on the specific on October 3rd at 10:30 in 1996, all these people basically wake up with random superpowers, and nobody knows why it happened, but the government kind of detected this something was going on, and so they're all freaking out and going crazy. They're setting up these research facilities. They're trying to find out what this like quantum level event was, but the story really focuses on these two girls that this happened to, Kira and Nora. And they're not friends before, but they actually, Kira, being a comic book nerd, when this happens to her, she instantly goes, I'm going to become a superhero. So she goes out and dresses like a superhero, but it's not really going very well because she can't find crime in progress. And
a lot of waiting around.
And then she sees this guy kind of roughing up his girlfriend, and so she goes, aha, now's my time. So she drops down there and is all like, back off, dude. And even though she has super strength, she can lift cars over her head, all this, she goes to punch him and she trips and falls down, and they're all kicking her. And then that lady that he was met, she goes over and spits on her, right? Because, she didn't really ask for any help. And so Kira's like disillusioned, where these drunk guys all jump in this pickup and they take off. And she's, upset and stuff because she feels embarrassed and like she's an idiot. And then she hears like crash or something. So she takes off running, and she finds that they took off and then crashed in an intersection because they were all drunk. And there's a girl already there trying to save save the people they ran into. And so Kira starts to help her, and the person there is Nora. So Kira and Nora are trying to save all these people, and they end up doing it. And and then they leave, and they're kind of friends after that.
And Kira has like super strength powers, and Nora is super intelligent. So Nora they're playing off each other to actually come up with plans of how to maximize their power.
Yeah.
Your comic book, would this be a fair assessment? It's superheroes meets slackers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now, ironically, I think because instinctively, I'm more in the slackers, Clerks, Beavis and Butthead, and all that type of stuff, because I read a lot of late 90s underground, but also 60s underground, like R. Crumb. And stuff like Ghost World. And so then when I said I'm going to do a straight up superhero comic, this was as close as I come. Like, it was me really trying to do just mainstream superheroes. This is as close as I got. And but then, oh yeah, yeah. So as the series goes on, it grows and you find this more complex than
Yes.
these. It focuses on this kind of group of slacker superheroes, but the scope is far, far beyond that. And so each of my issues jumps back and forth from
You have
Kira Nora, and then this time traveling Lillian Wepawet, and then the government agencies that are investigating all this and stuff like that.
they're like I said, I think I caught on issue 5. I saw an ad in Alterna magazine. And I said, "This looks good," in an Alterna comic, and I went and I got all your issue, and I became a fan for life when I ordered 1 to 6, and I forgot to order 5, and you just included it for me because it bothered you. And I said, "This guy deserves, all the kudos in the world for being as OCD as me." So, so you did that, but I like it because it's charming and whimsical, but there's a hint of darkness, and with every issue, that hint of darkness is becoming anti-luminous, like a looming dark cloud that it really does kind of like fill me with dread. But at the same time, I've been saying that you Tonicmole, are the best at dialogue in comics working today, if you ask me. Your characters, they speak to each other, they have conversations, they're actually funny, which is difficult to do in comics.
Yeah, definitely.
And they're interacting, and they'll be in the middle of a fight, and one of them will look at the other one like, "Why did you say such a stupid thing?" And she's just like, "I thought that's what superheroes are supposed to." And you're laughing, but at the same time, Wepawet's hinting that like there's doom. Like, and Tonic will tell you, me and him have stayed up like till 4 o'clock in the morning, and I've been asking him questions about his comic. I'm completely fascinated, but then I ask him a question, and then don't answer that.
Well, and see, like from the first issue, I'd say the first issue, I don't know if I really thought much beyond it when I did it, but then when I was preparing for 2, well, no, I did, because I released Saving the Universe alongside number 1, and that was I drew over the weekend because I was like, nobody understands what this is going to be. They're just going to see the 2 girls joking and being dumb, but they won't understand that this is bigger, and this might be my only shot to hook them. So I, over the weekend, drew an 8-page Lillian Wepawet introduction, and then I had Peter Pomiotti did the character. I never actually used him out. I didn't continue him because my thoughts on it all changed. But then, and Gypsy, who later reappears and is totally different, but same character. She first appears in that Saving the Universe also. So the idea of this broader scope, but also that I've watched things that, especially in the 90s, they were really good at it, that it was funny, but the funnier they were, the more the doom bothered you. That you're like, no, there's something wrong. And so that was definitely like my primary goal, was to capture this. The funnier the comic, the more you're concerned, because you know that the darkness ain't going nowhere. It's there. So the more I lead you away, it's like suddenly the thing is behind you and you're looking forward, and you know it's behind you though.
Like typical, like Kiara's got a big chest, we can't, so she's wondering, like, does this shirt, like, it's too tight, like she's fighting and it's ripped, and she's like looking like, am I too exposed? Meanwhile, there's like monster, you know what I mean? Like, and it does, it works, because you kind of laughing at the situation because she's embarrassed, and it's a kind of a human, but now there's something going on that, you know what I mean? That makes it a little, you pull it off, and I wish I could do that. That's, it's like joking. I can't write funny. I try. I think I'm funny, but I can't write funny because it's horror and comedy require timing, and I got to work.
Yeah, and for instance, when I was younger, especially a teenager, people would go, "You should be a stand-up comedian." It's like, no, being funny is one thing, I can't be a stand-up comedian because I couldn't write those types of jokes. I can write comedy and stories.
But you can't get up there and be like, airplanes. Oh my God, airplanes, guys.
Yeah. Hey, what's the deal with airplanes? Yeah. Yeah. So, and it's funny because
I can imagine RJ as a stand-up comedian. Everybody just hates standing alone in the woods by themselves. You know,
and see,
you hate it when squirrels are bothering you when you're in the woods by yourself. You know.
Now, ironically, I hear a lot of people go, "Oh, I just can't like write comedy." Well, for me, it's the easiest thing. So I worry about relying on it too much because the thing I find that I want to do that is hard, like feels so difficult, is real drama and suspense, right? So I often use comedy as a crutch, but I desperately try to be like my scripts. I'll write my script, and when I draw it, that changes dramatically because I see the pacing and how this really comes off. And so, I've learned a lot since, like how I approach writing a script, like how much of the script really needs to be done if I'm going to change almost all of it. So I kind of understand more about the production of it. But I also learned that I was watching Endgame and the Marvel movie, and every 10 seconds there was a joke.
Right.
But it didn't work in the way of, oh, this is so funny. That darkness affects you more, or that like sadness affects you more. It was actually diffusing.
Right.
Like it was working against the drama.
When Marvel first started out, like you looked at the Iron Man movie, there was funny moments.
Right.
Overall, it was a serious movie, and they took it seriously. I think Guardians of the Galaxy, it worked in Guardians of the Galaxy for whatever reason. You know what I mean?
That's the one that I thought of the most. That definitely the first one, and I think the second one I liked it. I never saw the third one, but the second one I think too. But especially, actually, the one I think, and I mean, I would say that I'm hopefully trying to aim for a little bit more artsy attempt at this. I don't know, but on a commercial level of Spider-Man Homecoming, when I watched that, there was lots of comedy, really heavy on the comedy. But when Peter Parker's all messed up and I think he's buried under rubble and he's trying to push it off of him, it was like it hit so goddamn hard because the comedy had been so heavy that when they whiplash you, it hits you really, really hard. And I think that there is a bit of a timing for the whiplash. If you just whiplash them over and over, they're diffused and they just like, I don't know what you're doing. But if you know exactly when to hit the comedy and then bounce into the drama, yeah, you hit this thing where it's pulling emotions that actually enhances them, where either scene by itself wouldn't be as strong. But when you put the comedy and drama scene together, they really launch you further. I think I hit the comedy better. The drama is what I'm working on.
No, they're really good doing in your comics coming up. I want to address what Herenberg says. Wep Wat Wet is the Egyptian god of funerals and war represented by the head of a wolf. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it was funny because I couldn't pronounce that character. I liked the character, and I was saying it out loud. I was trying to pronounce it, and my wife goes, she's into Egyptian myth. She goes, "Oh, that's that wolf god from Egypt." I was like,
yeah, and he is I originally had a character when I was in 3rd or 4th grade. Me and my friends decided we're going to make a comic book. Now, at the time, I had drew Batman, and I'd done some comic books, but it's always based on characters. Like I did 2 or 3 little RoboCop comics. Now, this is all on lined paper and probably unreadable, but I did these little things. Well, they said, oh, we should make our own superheroes and stuff. And it didn't last long, but I took off with it. So I kept going and nobody else did. And I made this Wolfman, right? He was just a ripoff of Batman, just a wolf. And I drew this, and I wrote like these kind of short novels of the character and all these stories. But then by the time I think I was in 6th grade, I was like, that's baby stuff, Wolfman. But I was really into
Oh,
Egyptology.
let me ask, RJ, what Tonicmole's talking about, I think we all went through. There was a time where we kind of got embarrassed by our love of superheroes and comic books. Did you ever go through that?
Yeah, no, like I said before, I live out in the country, so I don't think anybody knew that I read comics. Not many of my friends, anyway.
Do you still hide them? Like when
Yeah.
when your big business executives come over, do you give them a copy of Crisis on
No,
Infinite Earths?
I like nobody knows. Like nobody really around here besides my brother. My brothers know the fact that I actually publish comics.
Oh, really? Really?
Yeah.
Oh, all right, we got a bunch of people in the chat. Just sign off. Like, do you let people know you read comics? Is it like a secret, shameful hobby? I mean,
Yeah, people know I read comics now. People don't know I publish comics though.
Don't tell them. Don't tell them. We'll get, yeah. So
No, it is weird. So I was never ashamed of reading superhero comics. It was just they were really bad, right? So by the time I was 16, or about 14 or 15, well, that was after like the comic book bust, right? So there was, everything was like just pandery crap in like 95 and 96.
yeah, this is RJ's favorite time of comic books.
Yeah, I completely agree with your timeline of where you need to start your own book. That's exactly where mine started as well. Is 95, 96. That's exactly.
It is funny because there's an event in 1996 in my comic that.
Oh, right.
You know what I mean? It's just funny that all three of us, we came up with, there's something that needed to be done around the mid 90s.
That's right. and so I got more into music, and I started playing guitar and stuff like that. So the comics, I never gave up comics. It was just the comics that fit my mental space at that point was more Fantagraphics and all that type stuff, and still like heavy metal, so it wasn't all just like snooty stuff. But
RJ, you were cold turkey at this point, right? You just
I was cold turkey for North American comics. Anime and manga is where I went, quite honestly.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. So you actually switched. Around this time, again, I kind of catch hell for it every once in a while, but I wasn't a big fan of that Image stuff. So I was doing what you were doing. I was going more Vertigo and Fantagraphics. I think I discovered Love and Rockets around this time, everything but the Ninja Turtles, which infuriates Tonicmole over here.
Shame on you. Okay, now I'm going to be totally fair. I was way too freaking young for Ninja Turtles. So I was 2 when they come out. And so I was the age of the cartoon. So when I was 7, I become obsessed with the Ninja Turtles cartoon. And it's like I'm part of the what would they call that? The turtle craze or whatever. And so Pizza Hut and all this, the big marketing boom with the cartoon and the movies and all that. So that was my generation. So I started buying Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Adventures. I knew that there was some old black and white comic, but I'd never seen it before.
So you bought the comics that was based on the cartoons?
Right.
Okay.
Now, the funny thing is, those were actually made by the exact same guys. So Archie, so when they wanted to do a Ninja Turtles based on the cartoon, Archie said, well, we have the distribution network to get it into grocery stores and all that type stuff. And Mirage said, that's great. And so Mirage made the comic. And so like Jim Lawson, my God, that guy drew a lot of Ninja Turtles. He was drawing for Mirage for a lot of the issues of the volume 1. And then when that ran out, he just jumped over to TMNT Adventures. And really, if you start reading TMNT Adventures around issue 6 or 7, it just goes off rails and has nothing to do with the cartoon. Clearly, it's just a different it's a third canon that's more. It's much more like the Mirage Studios Volume 1 than it is the cartoon at all.
I just know when Teenage Mutant Ninja, I had #1 in my hand, you know,
Yeah.
and I'm like, they're making fun of Frank Miller. You know. So,
Hey, you feel good now,
Yeah.
Hot Shot?
yeah, I do. I that's my $180,000 mistake. I made
Right.
2 of them. What do you mean buy Bitcoin? This is buying nothing. This is the stupidest thing ever.
That's right. Well, okay. There is no winning, and Bitcoin, you never know, right? Comics,
No,
you
it's
have
up
a
to
fight
100,000 now. Jeez.
because I jumped into some of that, and I was like, you lose your ass or not, and it's how long you want to put money in to see how it goes. Oh, so yeah. I really got out of comics in '93. Really, when it comes to superheroes, it was
How old were you in '93?
13 or I was born in
You were
'81.
out of comics at 13?
Probably out of.
That shows you how people talk about the '90s. Really, it's rose-colored glasses. You know, RJ.
Yeah, well, it's right. It was right at the end of the boom because it was. I know the comic that broke me. It was when Bruce Wayne returned after Azrael was Batman. So I started collecting religiously. I started collecting Batman in '88. But I mean, I wasn't collecting. I mean, I was buying them whenever I saw them, so I had most of them. But then around 91, 92 is when I started every Batman comic and sleeve it, put it in the box, that whole bit. And that was just before Nightfall started and the Death of Superman. So I got into that whole frenzy of Death of Superman and Nightfall and all this, and it was super exciting. And I did the whole Nightfall run, and I'd collecting all this stuff. And then after Batman gets his back broken and Azrael's Batman all the way, and then Bruce Wayne comes back, right? And it just and Superman was back by this point too, and I was just like, oh, I don't give a shit. Right? I mean, they were selling us on this everything's gonna be different forever.
I remember when RJ, were you still collecting comics when they killed Superman, the Death of Superman?
Oh yeah, yeah. I worked at the comic shop during that because it was so big event. I mean, I was in a small town. It was a big event. They needed more people.
It was crazy.
I just remember even at the time I thought it was in bad taste. I'm like, they're not killing Superman. They're not killing. Like I refused to. I refused to buy it. I'm like, I'm not falling for the scam. Like I was like resentful that DC thought that I was stupid enough to believe that Superman was going to die. You know what I mean? I was like, what do you think? I'm a born yesterday kind of thing? I'm not buying this.
Well, and that was I remember seeing on the news, and this is in Oklahoma.
Yeah, it was on the news.
This was
comic books on the news. That's like a big deal.
It's easy to this day. There has never been a bigger thing in comics than the Death of Superman. And I remember this guy waiting in line to get his issue. And he was like, I'm buying this to put my kids through college.
Yeah.
Now,
yeah, my two brothers have sealed, and I'm like, yeah, I'll give you 50 cents for them, you know?
Yeah, they're worth nothing.
My comic book is worth more than the Death of Superman.
Yeah, exactly. So, but that really, and I mean, I was a kid, so I could see anyone any older than me going, no, Superman don't die. That's not how this works.
Right. Have you read a comic?
But as a kid, I remember there was this cover of Batman. Keep in mind, as a kid, I was kind of autistic and I took everything super seriously. It was Batman, and it was like film from a movie camera thing. And he was hanging by it on the cover.
I remember that cover.
Yeah.
I can't remember the issue, but I remember the cover that you're talking about.
That whole Norm Brayfogle run.
Yeah.
Every issue was like him half dead on the cover. And I kept thinking, is this the issue? Right? I mean, I'm 9 or 10, mind you. So, but the whole time I was just like, oh God, I gotta read this, right? And it was so dark and so heavy. Now, when I go back and read them, I go, no, I wasn't crazy as a kid. Norm Brayfogle and I think it's Alan Grant,
Yeah,
those guys were making comics, son of
yeah,
a gun. That Batman run was
yeah.
legendary.
That was the Denny O'Neil years. You had
Yeah,
Chuck Dixon and Graham Nolan on Detective. You had the team you just mentioned on Shadow of the Bat,
yeah.
and Doug Minch and I can't remember his name now.
Oh no, Norm
Batman.
Brayfogle, he was on Shadow of the Bat hadn't come out yet. It was Detective Comics.
Oh, and that he did the one like the super folds and the capes and everything like that. Like he was like Todd McFarlane before McFarlane, you know.
Yeah, exactly. And his art was amazing, and it's weird because you don't hear about this era, and it is definitely the defining era, in my opinion. It was all leading up to, but for instance, stories that happened in this little couple of years was like the death of Jason Todd
Yes, yes,
and all these types. The comics were so dark, but then there was stories that I mean a lot to me because that was what I was reading. But I never hear the Penguin Affair and Mud Pack. I think it was all the different clay faces.
yeah.
That
Well,
would be the time Anarchy also came out as a character, I do believe.
What's that?
I think that's when Anarchy came on the scene for a Batman villain.
100%. And Anarchy, it was all this really highbrow but dark stuff. And
well, you were 10 years old when these come. I still talk about Avengers 165. I was 10 years old when that came out. I'm
Right.
56 now. I still talk about that comic. I'm not even joking. Like once a month, whenever I see my friend Mike, we talk about that.
yeah,
You know, like you always remember your first comics, your first girlfriend, your first car. You know what I mean? Like,
oh my first, my parents, they weren't strict exactly, but they kind of were. Like they didn't drink or smoke or cuss or anything. They weren't really religious people or nothing. It just was that type of thing. So I think that when I got it was my first Batman comic. I think it was my first comic, and it was Norm Brayfogle and Detective Comics. I can't remember the number, but it's Batman and this Aborigine standing in a city, but the city's tiny. Like they look like kaiju really,
yeah.
And I think there's in light gray in the background this snake or something, and it was my first Batman comic, and there was like drug dealers dealing coke, and one guy says "damn," and now I was 8, but yeah, I was 8, 7 or 8, I think 8, and but then like this one guy gets thrown out of a window and splatters all over the pavement. It don't say it; it just says splat, but like it hit me heavy, and I think that's what a
so
lot
did
of
your
people
parents
don't.
object to you reading comics?
No,
No.
oh no. It was a weird thing because okay, by the time I was like 13 or 14, I was really into movies. I was into everything. I'm obsessive freak. So
Wait a minute. Comic book fan, obsessive freak. Would you
Ain't that
describe
weird?
yourself as obsessive about your comics?
Just a little, yeah.
Yeah.
But
Do you bag them board and put them in number order and alphabetical, right? Like a normal
Oh,
person?
definitely.
Yeah. So there you go. Dusty, you're among friends here.
That's right.
Yeah.
I owned
Emote.
That's right. I owned the Alien movies and watched them all the time, but my parents wouldn't let me watch Predator. Right. So it was really like inconsistent.
My parents let me read comics. They let me watch movies. I watch horror movies. You know what was one thing my mom got mad at? Listening to the Beatles because they were English. My mom was Irish.
See that it was a very inconsistent thing, and I think it was just they randomly said maybe we shouldn't, but we can't take away what we already let him, but not this. And I remember like they really didn't want me watching Wayne's World, but it's PG-13, right? And I watched.
No, it was just bad. They were like, "Don't watch that; it's bad."
It might be they're like that's stupid, and it's funny if I watched it today, I'd go, yeah, they were right. But back then it was like, oh, this is the forbidden fruit.
I agree with Jack. Then Predator was less scary than Alien.
Yeah. Oh, and
the first Alien movie was. Did RJ? Did you see it in the movie theater?
The first Aliens? No,
Yeah.
I don't think so. Second one, definitely.
I saw the first one in the movie. Believe it or not, it's the only time I've seen it. I got to watch it again. You know, but it was awesome. It was scary. It was
and
terrifying.
keep in mind, I had Alien 3 that I watched religiously. I watched it.
Oh, I'm right there with you. I'd probably seen that like 50 times when it was in the theaters.
Really?
Just because it was, I went to it almost every day when it was in and watched it every day, at least once. I don't know
Really?
why.
Alien
It was just one of the things because I was in university at the time and it's like, yep, I'm going. Just
You
going.
guys liked it that much?
Well, I don't know if I liked it that much. It was the only thing at that time like that, I think, really. And
Because I
it
remember
just
that was the
glommed
first
onto it.
time I was like, I don't think I like Alien anymore. You know,
Now, for me,
but I got to watch it again. I saw it once in the movie theater.
I liked that, like, especially looking back. But when I was a kid, I loved the hell out of all three. And I really liked Alien 3. But for me, so you have Alien, which is very Ridley Scott. It's slower paced, and it keeps this thing. And then you go, and then the Fox said, now for something completely different. And they bring in James Cameron, a big scope, all these aliens and stuff. And so then for the third movie, they did what they should have. They said, and now for something else completely different. They didn't know.
I didn't think of that. I got to rewatch the first three again.
And they got David frickin' Fincher, that we all know now, but nobody knew when that movie came out. And the funny thing is, he disowned the movie, and everybody said, "Oh well, it would have been good if they let him do his thing." And I was like, I bet you go watch 7, and you go watch Alien 3. You damn well know that is the same director. There is few movies more David Fincher than Alien 3. And that's what they actually hated about it, though, right? So people act like, oh, it's because David Fincher didn't get to do his thing. It's like, no, it's because he did get to do his thing. And in the context of Alien, I thought it made perfect sense. The first movie isn't supposed to be a happy, fun thing. It's doom always around the corner. Aliens gave you this happy ending. And then Alien 3 said, yeah, but obviously that's not how it's going to end. And like the 7, what's in the box? What's in the box? That was Alien 3, right? That the little girl Hicks gets sucked up into the vacuum tube, and the little girl's dead because she drowns in her thing. And then Ripley doing the whole scan. She has a freaking alien in her. And Bishop, is he okay? Oh no, he's messed up plenty good. And then how he films things is very distinctive. So I loved it. Now, sadly, when Alien Resurrection came around,
I've never seen that one because, like I said, I was done with Alien. I've never seen an Alien movie after 3.
After that, they said, again, now for something completely different. So they got this guy from France. He is an amazing director. Made some of the best movies I've ever seen. He always does kind of dark sci-fi, but with a weird artistic twist, right? It's heavy symbolism, and he's kind of like a little bigger-minded Tim Burton in a way. Tim Burton kind of does do, but it's all fun.
Tim Burton hit or miss, if you ask.
Right.
And it's mostly miss, if you ask me.
This guy has a little bit more intellect with these crazy visuals. Unfortunately, he's French. I don't even think he could speak English when he directed Resident Evil or Alien Resurrection, Resident Evil. So he comes in. Joss Whedon wrote the script.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and clearly the director didn't even know what the words meant half of the time. So
RJ, did you see the 4th one?
Oh yeah. I owned all of the. I think Aliens was the first movie I ever bought on CD, or on DVD, and I just watched that over and over again. So yeah, Alien movies just big impact on me.
Oh really? You still a fan of all the new stuff?
I still not the new stuff, but the last,
I'm like hardcore. When I decide I don't like something, it's as if it doesn't exist. But I think I'm gonna give a special dispensation. Well, I like the first two. I like the third
now,
one. Turned me off.
I think that if what you might be best suited to like Alien 3. I think it's an extraordinarily good movie. I think that, though, people who are fans of Aliens jumping into Alien 3 get their feelings hurt like crazy because of a lot of bad things happen. And I think it was the story's direction they didn't like. They wanted a happier ending or that happy ending to be saved, and it doesn't do that. So
I can't pronounce the director's name, but did he direct a movie called The City of Dreams with the same actor? Why can't I think of his name? Who played Hellboy?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
It wasn't City of Dreams, but yes, it had Rod Perlman in it.
Perlman, he played a character called One, where the main character couldn't dream, and he was stealing the dreams from children.
Yeah, is it City of Dreams? Oh, you must be right. I was thinking City.
I love that movie. I love that movie.
Yeah, that's him. And
really
then
creepy, really, It did what's his name? Del Toro. Not what's his name? Guillermo. Did he direct an Aliens movie?
No.
City of Lost Children. City of Lost Children.
I thought there was Lost Children in it. Yes, he directed that, and then a couple of others.
And Amelie. I didn't realize you directed Amelie.
Yeah. And then he goes, and obviously he's the perfect pick for a completely different idea on Aliens, but he just didn't do it. And so I hate it because everybody goes, oh, Alien Resurrection was terrible, which is true. But damn it, they did almost everything wrong. The problem is now, in hindsight, having watched like Joss Whedon's last-minute script for Justice League with his changes, and he had jokes that weren't funny but were supposed to be offensive, like the alien butt probe thing. And you're like, why is that in Justice League? What are you doing, dude? And then the weird, like, oh, the Flash falls on top of Wonder Woman, and he's all like, oh my goodness. I'm like, you're really pulling that? That happens in, like, that's a way overused thing of the guy falling on top of the girl or vice versa.
Yeah.
And so he did all these things. That's when I realized if he releases a script last minute and doesn't go over it and go, oh, that's actually cringe, he releases a terrible script. If he or other people go over a script and clean out the cringe, there's actually a good story there. He's just prone to his first drafts being cringe.
What?
Alien Resurrection is full of these cringy things of those sorts.
Well, can I say I'm working on a script with Tonicmole. He's gonna be doing art chores for the real world, and Oscar, this gentleman right here, he's gonna be doing the art for the superhero world. So I showed you this before, right? Have I? Tonic, I forget if I even showed you this. Here's the cover to our comic. And now that my campaign is filled, I'm full bore reworking the script. But the real world part is done. I just got to redo it because it's never done. And then the superhero portion I'm fleshing out for us. But did I ever show you this, Tonic?
Yeah. Because I pointed out, and I like to point it out here. My art was so-so. His coloring was insane. So don't go, wow, that Tonic's really stepped up his game. No, I haven't.
Well,
it's
Tonic drew Eddie, the guy holding the book. That's Eddie, and Eddie's a comic book fan. And then everything behind Eddie is the stuff that's happening in the comic. So I was thinking of having Eddie's world in black and white, like Love and Rockets, and then contrasting it with super colors for the super. But Oscar did such a good job coloring it.
Really good. Like, it adds this like hyper amount of depth that certainly wasn't in my art. And so, yeah, it looks freaking awesome.
So we'll look for that after Heroic Tales #2. Anytime Tomic, he can color you. Oscar's a great. Hey, Hondo Murray, how you doing? Good to see you. Good to see some new names. I never liked Firefly, but Serenity was really good because the studio made him turn down the light humor. Yeah. Humor's a crutch, I think, and what I think the MCU people are starting to realize that they leaned on that crutch too much.
Well, see, I just watched Deadpool and Wolverine, and
did you see it, RJ?
No, I haven't.
Did you see the first 2 Deadpool movies?
Yeah, I can't even remember if I saw the second one. I saw the first one. I don't remember if I seen the second one. Honestly,
well, that's the same as that's the same as seeing it. The first one I thought was really good. The second one was like, I don't know.
The second one clearly was, he had that one guy, Tim something, and they did the first one together, and there was it was heavy comedy, but with a very, very strong action backbone of the bad guy and drama and all that. And so even with the heavy amounts of comedy, it was still a legitimate movie with a plot. And
which one? The second one?
The first one.
Yeah.
But then the second one, that guy left, and I think he had a falling out with Ryan Reynolds. And so he left, and so Ryan Reynolds got his own writers, and they come up with it. Well, it favored jokes over the drama and plot almost most of the time.
Right.
But in the end, I still was like, well, it's kind of fun. I liked some of the characters, it brought in. Cable, it was cool to see Cable and Domino and stuff like that. But it certainly wasn't as good as the first one. Well, then I just watched Deadpool and Wolverine. That thing is just stupid jokes from beginning to end with seemingly no plot other than cameos.
Well, that's what people said. If it's don't take it seriously, it's just
right.
Yeah,
and it was, and I laugh easily. Like, I love humor, so I will always laugh if there's a joke usually, and I think it's funny. And I laughed. There was lots of funny things. It was just, there's a type of humor that makes me feel hollow after, where I go, yeah, I laughed and it was funny, but Family Guy makes me feel like that because all the characters are shit and stupid, and I laugh because it's so funny. But then afterwards, I'm like, yeah, but I hate that show actually.
Yeah, I can't.
That's how I always felt about Deadpool from the beginning.
right.
Deadpool's a character that I don't like, so I didn't watch the movies. But I people like, just watch the first one. I got to admit, the first one was good. It, like you said, it had a story, it had heart to it. It I don't like breaking the fourth wall kind of stuff. It just
right.
But it worked. The second one, it was okay. It was
right.
Watching it, not watching it was the same. And I've been dreading watching the third one. But
yeah,
what you said about Family Guy, I can't watch that show.
Yeah,
I feel, like you said, I feel dirty. Like,
watch a trailer of Deadpool and Wolverine, and I guarantee you see that's it. Like, when I was watching it, I was like, so almost every, especially the dramatic, like the important parts, are actually in the trailer. So that, like, where Logan's sitting by the fire and he says, I'm not the right man or something, and she turns and goes, you never were. Yeah, that's the drama. That's all of the drama in the entire. There isn't more hiding.
People tell me, turn your brain off before you watch the movie and you'll enjoy it. I'm like, well, that's not a good sign.
No. And I would argue, no, it because it is just stupid jokes and then saying it's member berries, never ending.
That's your boy Zach. That's how he described it. It's member berries, the movie.
Right, exactly. And then they repeatedly they try to. It's something that millennials do when they write, and I always fear, like, I'm always terrified I do it. If you go, okay, my plot reaches this point, how do I get from B to C now? And you go, and then a millennial writer will go, I can just make a joke where it's all like LOL, and that gets me to C. Right?
Or they reference it. Oh, geez, like,
yeah. Like in Deadpool 1 or 2 or something, where he goes, well, that's just lazy writing.
Right. I'm going to reference how bad it is, and then it's hand waving.
And then it's okay to move on.
Yeah.
Hang a lantern. It's a writing term.
Is that what it's called? Hang a lantern?
Yep.
Really?
Yep.
Yeah.
They basically pointed out to the audience that this is a stupid contrived thing by saying it's a stupid contrived thing, and therefore it sort of defuses the fact that the audience will criticize it.
Right.
I guess the best example of that is in Austin Powers, the first movie, when they start talking about time travel, and then the character goes to the screen. It's best if you just don't think about it and just go with it.
Right. And see, and I say that when it's a movie like Austin Powers.
Yeah, it worked in Austin Powers. What works in Austin Powers shouldn't work in Dostoevsky or
right, in a superhero movie. And what else is any Mel Brooks movie, right, is going to play into that.
Right.
He invented the most absurd, going into the absurd.
I call that a Mr. Roper moment.
Yeah.
Do you remember Three's Company?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Remember when Mr. Roper, Norman Fell, would just look at the camera, and then he would just reference, I know that was a stupid joke, and then you'd laugh. It's Norman Fell, and he could get away with murder, if you ask me.
Yeah, and see, so, but this one, yeah, it does it, and it's too obvious because if you can get away with whatever, go for it. I worry about that when I'm writing Saving the World because it does. I was born in 81, so it depends.
81, oh my God. I'm going to lay down and somebody just throw dirt on me.
It depends who you ask is whether I'm a millennial or I'm Gen X.
I don't know. I'd
say you're Gen X, honestly. I would.
If nothing bothers you, then you're Gen X. Yeah.
Yeah, well, and it is.
I remember 81. Jeez. Oh, God. Oh.
And now I'm a grunge kid, so I listen to nothing but grunge and all this stuff. So, hey, Gen X is what I grew up in, so that's, pretty much. But
I got into grunge when it started. I always felt like that was that was like the first trend that I was in on the beginning,
Right. Now, okay, now to be fair, I got in right at the frickin' end. I think I was just like, oh, Nirvana's awesome. And they're like, yeah, that guy just killed himself. I'm like, well, that sucks.
I really like this band. They just broke up.
Well, oh, didn't you hear? I think grunge died last year. I'm in Oklahoma. It's just getting here. And that was true back then. So everything I say, remember, I lived in Oklahoma, so we're offset back then by like 5 or 6 years. And so grunge was.
Do you remember that band, the Kentucky Headhunters? They were like a country band. Oh, they were big but they were like the first country band to break it into like mainstream or whatever. But one of them was like, you got to understand, I was the only kid in my school who knew who Jimi Hendrix was.
Right, yeah. Oh, and that was definitely like me and my friends. There was maybe 4. Yeah, there was 4 of us that listened to like rock music and stuff, where everybody else was country music, and we like my town is like 3,000 people, and it's been 3,000 for like ever. So low population, so limited thing, but and so yeah, I grew up with heavy Gen X influence, but at the same time, I picked up a lot of the humor that kind of came about in the early 2000s. And so there's certainly that influence there and I mean, Gen X kind of created it though. And so it does come from there, where don't take anything too seriously. And so rarely will I write a story, especially nowadays. I think because I found some success in comedy. So now I don't want to go anywhere else.
Well, I know RJ always leaves soon, so I want to make sure that I show his comic, and then we'll go back to it. But RJ's working on Crom the Destroyer right now.
Still working, yes. I apologize to everyone who ordered it. We're way behind schedule, but still working.
And Nick Axe he was originally gonna do 1 chapter. Now he's doing like 2 chapters.
2 and a bit. And he's doing a couple extra things as well. He's grinding.
Yeah. Nick X is a guy with many talents. He did so much for my comic. Somebody was listed everybody who's like, oh, they did such a great job. Like, you forgot Nick X. He did a lot of stuff behind the scenes for my comic that, instrumental.
I can make RJ feel a little better. I also have a shameful secret. I'm working on a comic called Red Sirens, and it funded about the exact same time yours did. And I'm trying to get it finished so I can ship it out this year. And Saving the World, I kept up, but it was partly because things were setting me back for Red Sirens. And I said, I can't let this affect everything. I have to just keep moving forward and not let me goofing up on one comic get me. I will get it out, and it's a deal. And that's why everybody who was making the big deal about some people being late on comics, and I was like, no, don't jinx yourself. I never said nothing because I knew there was always a chance someday I'm going to be late on a freaking comic.
Yeah, I was 3 weeks late because at the last minute I saw an error that had to be corrected.
Right. And okay, 3 weeks don't count though. So
it bothers me. And then I promised I'd be done with fulfillment by Saturday, and then the post office brought these boxes back.
Eventually you like, I remember my first comic that I was really late.
I love this.
Was pretty much Red Sirens, but
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was just
no, that's fine.
So I would. So I wanted to say in defense of you, I think you're doing the right blend of comedy, but you're not using it as a crutch. Mm-hmm. Again, your use of comedy gets you laughing, so that when something creepy happens, it's almost like an amplifier of the creepiness.
Right.
You know? And I bought your first comics because I was like, oh, this looks like fun, whimsical stuff. Mm-hmm. And the first issue was kind of fun and whimsical. It was two girls get powers, and they, she can't, none of her clothes fit her anymore because, you know what I mean? And you're like, okay, this guy's just making a booby comic. But then sort of around issue 4 or 5, you start to get like creepy, sinister vibes that this is, and again, I know more than most because me and you were talking about it. So I'm trying to be spoiler free. But I'm a big fan of your comic. I've said this many times that your dialogue is the best dialogue. Like
thank you, sir.
It's real people. Like if I was, first off, your comic is it's set in 1996, right? Uh-huh. It's set in the 90s. You include little songs to listen to while
right.
Yeah, which I think is a neat touch. And I was thinking of doing something inspired by you, is having the kids going through, the patriarch has 7 kids. I was thinking of the kids going through their parents' record collection and making fun of records and stuff like that.
Hey, and I highly recommend, because I listen to music while I write and draw, really, depending on what I'm always when I'm drawing, sometimes when I'm writing. And
no, not me. It's got to be silent when I'm writing. RJ, what about you?
Yeah, I got to turn off the music when I'm writing. Although I have to say, Tonic, I think this is what's going on here, is that, I think that we're, like, for myself anyways, I'm trying to bring back heroic stories, because people today don't know what they are, like, especially young people. They don't know, they don't know what they look like. And you're doing the same thing with comedy. Is because they've been drained of life with and comedy, especially. Like, anybody who's been, who just remembers the last 10 years, they don't know what comedy is.
Oh my God.
Right? And you got to reintroduce it to them. And you're going back to 1996. That's exactly what you need to do.
I'm sorry. What was the last good comedy movie to come out?
Okay, I'm going to say this. I like comedy way too easily, because I watched this movie called Jackpot with Awkwafina and John.
Oh my God.
And I was laughing so freaking hard. But
I think my superhero weakness is Awkwafina.
Oh my God. My wife had to watch it with me, and she's like, she likes good stuff, but it has like Quentin Tarantino, like, it has to be really pretty good. She'll watch, like, she doesn't like TV shows. She's far more lenient than I am. For me, it has to be the greatest TV show you've ever seen. But when it comes to movies, and I'll watch anything, because I only have to watch it for an hour and a half and I'm done. But so she had to watch Jackpot with me. I was like, no, this thing looks freaking hilarious, and it is because it's just stupid. And
You're more forgiving than me.
John Cena in the movie is a Ninja Turtle fan, and it shows him in his like office.
Oh, is that
thing.
why you watched it? It had Ninja
And-
Turtle references.
Yeah, when the camera enters his office, the Turtle Power song from the first movie soundtrack starts playing, and he's all like doing this stuff, and he's like a security guy, like a bodyguard. And then at some point he's tied to a chair and he can't get out, and it's all going really bad, like, this doesn't look good. And all of a sudden you hear and the Turtle Power song starts, and he goes, Turtle Power, and jumps up in the air and busts the chair. But anyways, that song has for some reason, a profound effect on me. And so that hit me. I was like, hell yeah, dude, you go. And
are you RJ, are you guys fans of stand-up comedy?
I am.
I don't know. I would say yes, but again, the fact is that I remember the Comedy Channel when it first came online. That's the kind of stand-up I was used to.
See, I can't find any stand-up comedians that I even like.
Oh well,
Jerry Seinfeld said that woke destroyed comedy. I'm just hoping that.
No, I'm going to make an argument that there's never that many funny people.
Yeah.
And so
everybody thinks they're funny.
Right, you always have to.
I'll tell you this: everybody's annoying.
Right. Right now, it's Dave Chappelle, of course, Shane Gillis, and there's a few other guys. There's about 5 or 6 generally really good stand-up comedians, but they only each release a thing every so often, and then it depends on. Like, there's that one guy. He's really pale, and all of his jokes are about being pale. He's kind of funny, but he's kind of like Bob Saget, back before he started saying dirty stuff, right? Where it's like, it's kind of funny, but it's, it's very.
I went to a comedy club, and the comedian just wasn't funny. I thought I was gonna die. I just can't. Like the cringe. It was like, I excused myself. I went to the bathroom, and I just sat in the bathroom stall till this guy's set was over. I could not take it.
I went to an open mic night in Oklahoma City.
Oh, nice.
And there was a comedian there. And I was like, okay, here we go. Let's see what this guy. He comes out, and okay, in Oklahoma and the South in general, at the time and to this day, the biggest name in comedy from our area was Jeff Foxworthy. You might be a redneck.
You might be a redneck.
Right. And so the guy comes out and goes, hey, thank you. He goes, so if bright flashing lights make you drop to the ground and convulse, you might be an epileptic. So his whole setup was, you might be an epileptic.
Oh, you know what's funny? In college, I tried everything. I took an acting class. I did stand-up comedy. You know what my comedy bit was? You might be a Nazi. And I was like, and I just did like this off-the-cuff thing. Did you invent World War II? You might be a Nazi. The audience, like one guy was like, ah, and everybody else was just like, oh my God. I think I alienated an entire audience of people. Like one guy was laughing. This guy's great.
Right. I was the one guy for this guy, I think, because I thought, oh my God, that's the funniest thing. But if you ever are trying to do something funny, I'm your guy. Because if there's an ounce of comedy, I found it and will laugh at it.
RJ, you ever get up on stage, do some stand-up comedy?
Not a chance in hell.
RJ did stand-up philosophy.
All right, I gotta run, guys.
Yeah, I knew that's why I wanted to get your trailer in there. But,
all right, thanks.
See ya.
Bye.
So let's talk about saving the world. Let's bring up your campaign because I didn't eat my dinner yet, and I'm starting to get grouchy.
Oh yeah.
Which one do you want me to bring up? Your Fund My Comic? That's the active one right now?
Yeah, let's try to do that.
Okay, so let's bring up. So you're on Fund My Comic. I forget. Did I already ask you? Is this the first time you're on Fund My Comic?
No, second time. I did number 9 at some point.
Yeah.
I got 3 backers, so that's something. But so my plans currently are I'm having this run to catch anybody that is kind of Fund My Comic. They want it back on there.
Yeah, and Fund My Comic has a pretty loyal fan base.
Yeah.
Do you have a catch-up tier?
Yes. Oh yeah, this is a full campaign. So
I will say, if you just get issue 11, you're missing out. It really builds up, and there's Easter eggs and there's foreshadowing.
Yeah, you can get all the backup issues, digital or physical, and then there's a deluxe edition that. Oh, and also this comic is at the printers as we speak. So this will be fulfilled alongside the Kickstarter that has already funded, most likely. And so once this wraps, I'll be shipping out Kickstarter. So you'll get these pretty damn quick. There's no big wait or anything. And so that's what I'm working on now. But yeah, and there's 4 variant covers. And so you can get the variant covers, you can get the digital catch-up bundle and all these types of things, and physical. And also I have a Kickstarter, which is the Saving the World #1 anniversary edition, but it also has all the backup bundles. So if you say, well, I'm a Kickstarter guy, well, go over there because it's on it's already funded, and those are at the printers also. But it's you can do late pledges, and so you can still back and get the catch-up bundles and all that type of stuff there also. And these all include, I believe, the catch-up bundles also include On Call Heroes #1, which is the spinoff. So we have 11 issues of Saving the World, and then 1 issue that's a spinoff called On Call Heroes, which is Kira and Nora, but it's kind of a different tone. And so those are the 2 campaigns. So you can get caught up on either Fund My Comic or Kickstarter. Also, I have my website, which is toniccomics.com. Pretty easy to just, if you type in Tonic Comics, that's the thing that pops up. And I will probably be doing another Kickstarter in the meanwhile, but it will be signed comics. So it's kind of more for the guys that are already pretty heavy into Saving the World. So I have some issues that were signed by me and Monk, and then and Jim Lawson, who drew Ninja Turtles forever. There's some of his that are signed, and then there's some that are signed by all 3 of us. And so I'll be having those on a Kickstarter. I put some up on eBay for a little bit, but it is hard getting people to go from platform to platform, I'm finding.
Right.
And so I'm going to put all those up on Kickstarter for the people who are really into Saving the World and see if they want those. And so that'll be coming up probably next week after Thanksgiving. But and then and you can find
you're going to launch another campaign after Thanksgiving before Christmas?
What's that?
Did you just say you were going to launch another campaign after Thanksgiving but before Christmas?
Yeah, for the signed comics and stuff.
Okay. Because I I was talking with Renzo today. He's full steam ahead on. He's finishing up my secondary story first.
Yeah.
And now he's going on to the main story. And I don't know. I think I'm gonna wait till after New Year's before I start doing the campaign for issue 2.
Yeah, and if you can wait, it don't hurt. It probably doesn't matter because as long as your campaign doesn't launch on Christmas Eve, you're fine because, as you know, everybody funds your comic on the first 2 days.
Right.
So it's not like you're running into Christmas. No, you're not going to get any backers on Christmas regardless because it's in the middle of your campaign.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't I've never seen a big difference whether there's a holiday or all of our readers are not exactly globetrotting all the time and going, oh, we got to do this. They're just like me. I'm going to be on Twitter on Christmas. You can message me or something. I'm not gone somewhere. And so I have never noticed it. So I don't really worry about it. But I live, like, my only income is comic books. So I have to go.
You're the rare comic book person that's actually a full-time comic book person.
Yeah. And especially
I'm a sucker going to work every day, commuting. And
well, Josh Howard, he's
another one,
but he's a bit higher tier. How I do it is a little bit of magic, but so
well, you just give up food. You don't need to eat.
I don't need to eat at all. Okay, I live in Oklahoma. There is a few things, like my parents have cattle, right? So they go, oh, we butchered a cow. So I put, like, half a side of beef in this deep freeze I got. And then everybody grows tomatoes and all this and onions, all this stuff. So I'm the person they're kind of pawning it off on because they got too much or something. So people's cups overfloweth. And so it actually is pretty cheap for me to live.
If you want to be a full-time comic book guy, have friends that are farmers and ranchers.
Yes. And then live in Oklahoma because the cost of livings.
Well,
like they basically,
I got a couple of years and I'm retiring. I might be your next door neighbor. Do you like board games?
Yeah, they almost give away houses and gasoline because they're like, well, nobody else wants it.
Do they tax pensions over there? That's like my main criteria.
We're the reddest state on the planet. I don't think they tax anything. I haven't paid. They don't. There's no sales tax on comic books because they have this weird law that was made for newspapers, and everybody just. I asked my local comic book store. I was like, "So there's no sales tax on comic books?" He goes, "I don't charge it." I think
there's no sales tax in comic books in New York. It's like one of the only things in newspapers, period, like magazines, comic books. I think it's like a federal thing.
Yeah, well, no, I think different states did it because I know if you go to like Kansas, I think they charge tax on comics, but
not New York.
But Oklahoma has almost no laws about anything.
What says don't tape the coin to the Gemini? What he's talking about is, I got a Gemini mailer right here.
Oh yeah.
People will buy my coin. I'd fold it, and I would put the coin right here. I thought it was like the most obvious place to put it. I hope nobody threw it away. I hope nobody. Oh, you want to know something funny? Speaking of that, what? I've been reusing Gemini mailers. Every time I get a comic, I just stack them in the garage. Like the first, not even joking, 80, 90 comic books that I shipped out were in already used Gemini mailers. My wife said, "Why are you throwing this away? This is the dog tags from your boy Zach's first kill. It was still in the Gemini mailer. So somebody almost randomly got my dog tags."
Oh.
So what? Yeah, other people do it too. I'm in good company, I guess.
This came in the mail, and I was like, "Where the hell did this come from?" And I remembered he did a deal where it's 99 cents.
Yeah, and it was your $1 comic.
Yeah, and I was like, "Hey, I'll do that." And so I haven't read it yet, but I don't. Well, that's another secret. I don't really read comics at all.
Oh, really?
No, I don't care for them. I think that it's really, really hard for me to sit down and read a comic nowadays. And it's funny because I'll buy one every once in a while. And I think it's that my taste is so specific that's why I write comics, because that's what I wanted to read. And so I look through comics trying to find a saving the world, and there isn't. It's just mine. And I was like, well, that's no fun because...
All kidding aside, there's no other comic like yours.
Yeah, and so it's hard for me to read because everybody goes, "Have you read my comic?" And I'm like, okay, if you...
Well, I'm not going to ask you that then.
No, hey, I read yours.
Oh, you did?
It was just one issue. I can get through one issue. I'm still working.
I'll take that. I read yours. It's just one issue. I could tolerate it. Yeah.
That's right.
Can I put that in my reviews? I'll tolerate. It was just one issue. I'll read it. Yeah, if that's.
I can read one, and but I think maybe it's because I'm drawing comics 24/7. So last thing I want to do is
I mean, look. I wonder if like Mike Barron reads anybody else's comics. I know Chuck Dixon says he doesn't read anybody because he doesn't want to be, ripping anybody off.
Oh yeah,
be accused or anything like that.
Shit, that's what I should have said. That sounds better.
Yeah, that sounds better. That sounds like you being professional.
His bullshit sounds perfect. I'm gonna use that.
Yeah.
Do you read comics? No, I don't read them because I don't want to accidentally steal from people. It's not that I just
you
don't
read
like
the Greek tragedies or from me or RJ's the smart one and he left. Now you got two idiots over here just talking nonsense logic.
Just for me, it's only science and history. I don't actually read good things. So like, so no, yes, Greek mythology definitely, and Greek history definitely. Greek stories, no.
I love Greek mythology. I'm a Greek mythology freak. It's one of the things that like I obsessed over. I used to write like genealogies and I used to put the stories in order. Looking back at the things that I did as a kid, I'm amazed that I actually had friends, considering how weird. But I was very good at concealing my weirdness from people, So, I was very good at compartment. Like when I was on the football team, I was Mr. Sporto, and then I'd go play with my Dungeons and Dragons friends. I was Mr. Dungeon, but the Greek tragedies. This is me at my most pretentiousness. Back in college, I attempted to write a Greek comedy. And that's where I learned that I can't write comedy. My Greek. I started to write a Greek comedy, and it was turning into a tragedy. Not on purpose. It was just a bad comedy.
You are a bold-faced liar because me and you were working on that Eddie.
Yeah,
funny as hell.
Well, the story with Eddie is I forget where we were, but me and you were on a panel together. I forget if we were on somebody else's channel. And somebody made a joke like, what would be the worst comic book you ever? Like somebody needs to make the worst comic book ever. And I just said, I'm working on a comic book about a comic book collector who has to move out of their parents' basement. And I just made a joke. Right. And then you were like, that's the best idea for a comic book ever.
I wrote and it's funny because, I have this friend and it was him. And so I was like, oh my God, yeah, because, American Splendor. And, it's so fascinating when, I'm kind of torn because, there's a big push for what about the good old days of comics, Now, my takeaway is like, yes, modern comics suck because they're pandery, they're desperate.
They're written by people who don't like comics and don't want to work for comics for the rest of their lives.
Right.
It wants to write comics. John Byrne wanted to draw comics.
Right. And however, at the same time, I think that looking at the present day, you go, this is terrible. But instead of saying, oh, the past, that's where it's good. It's like, yeah, but those exist and we'll never be as good as them. Right? We're never going to be able to do that. And so for me, I go, no, there is a future that's different than the present and the past. Because sure, we can be better than the present and have to for the medium to survive. But the past, those guys were different. They were in different times. And so often when I see kind of not retro, right? Like retro, I mean, my comic's retro. It has a 90s feel to the comedy and all that. But it's trying to be Stan Lee. It's not going to work, right? And we already had Stan Lee. Right. Those comics still exist and we collect them. I don't want to see new versions of people trying to be.
Yeah, I don't want to be a poor imitation of Stan Lee.
Right. And so, and I think that people have a bias when they think like they look at the history of things. So nowadays there's a real big obsession with DC Marvel, right? But DC Marvel really started to collapse early 70s, right? DC had this huge boom, and even they were struggling in the 60s before they, like Batman, kind of went dark and they entered their silver age. Marvel exploded during the 60s, where all their superheroes came from mainly. And but by the early 80s, things were bad. Everything was there imploding, but video
Right.
games were too. And then the black and white boom happened, and everybody's like, wait a second. A guy with a black and white comic can sell more copies than these giant publishers can. And that like breathed new life into the industry that fed directly into the image.
Well, I'm kind of hopeful for the future of comics. I was very dour for a long time, and I'm talking just recently. It's going to be different. I when I this I'm like pat myself in the back, but Mark Millar was on my channel, and guy's a genius.
Mhm.
He's very observant, and he's very like when he explains what he observes, it's like, oh wow, why didn't I think of that? But he said something to me, and I'm like, oh wow, I never noticed it. But he goes, comic books have 30-year cycles. He goes, you had 30 years, they were on the newsstand. He goes, now you had 30 years in the direct markets. He goes, now we're entering another 30 years. He goes, and I don't know what it's going to be, and it's exciting. Meanwhile, I'm like, it's changing and it's over and it's doomed. And here's a guy like, oh, it's changing and it's exciting. I'm like,
Well, when comics were like Frank Miller's Daredevil.
Oh, Logic's asking a question. So,
yeah.
Have any of you thought about adapting the story of Orpheus and Eurydice, the greatest incentive? Yeah, that's a great story. But no, but I will tell you this, another sneak peek. After Eddie is Doomed, and then if Eddie is Doomed does well, I have like a follow-ups. But I have Odin, a story of Odin, up there with Captain Kirk is some of my favorite fictional characters. Odin is realizing, he's up on the tree and he gets the gift of prophecy. He sees Ragnarok, and I want to make a comic book about Odin escaping the Ragnarok cycle. Like I'm going to survive, because the mythological Odin was not a nice guy, and he would toss. He killed his brothers. He would toss his family aside to survive. So yes, I want to do a mythological based story, but not Orpheus and Eurydice. I wrote it's so pretentious to say this, but in college I wrote a Greek play about Alexander's generals dividing up the empire based on a dick joke. How pretentious is that? But my second attempt at trying to make stuff like Tonic did. This is funny over here, so to make the seriousness over here more serious, kind of thing. But I'm not, I was 26 years old and super pretentious at the time, and I probably got distracted by some girl and then never finished it.
Yeah, our Crumb did that comedy, but also him and a lot of the guys around him, they would do these really deep. How did you make the pop-up on your website? Oh, my website?
Yeah, I don't have a website.
Oh, that's just Shopify, so it's kind of built into it. So I didn't actually have to make it so much, as in it just asked me, what do you want your pop-up to say? And I did that. And then so if you get
I could go to Shopify, make my own store.
Right.
Oh, okay.
And so that's all mine is just Shopify. You got to pay monthly, and so you kind of want to move stuff to pay for it, but which I move some stuff, but not enough to pay for it. But it's handy to have, because it kind of like I've been talking to a lot of creators and about working together, kind of building more of a community of creators that work across the aisle and all this type of stuff.
Oh, Logic, please do North. Yeah, I'm not touching Marvel Odin. This is Norse Odin, full on.
The real one.
Yeah. I think you can. That's all I'm telling you. Of course, there's a twist to it, and I'm not telling you the twist because I think it's such a good idea. Somebody will steal it. So, less said the better. I've already spoken too much. I've already said too much. You were saying something, and I interrupted you to answer the question, but now
it's not important. Oh, hey, we got a question, Lorelei Warren. I I don't know what that's in context to.
Yeah, I don't know if she's making fun of us, trolling us, or interested, or just making a suggestion. So
Oh yeah, it's called Lily and Wet. So you
I'm
just read that one.
fascinated by those two characters.
Yeah.
I really.
I was telling, maybe it's Brian Ball, and I was like, I feel like I introduced monster sex to my reader base. Like they were like not into that type of thing. Then they're like, well, I mean, give it a try.
Yeah. In case you couldn't figure it out, Saving the World becomes a little bit more not safe for work as you go along.
Random, but generally when it's Lily and Wepawet, not when it's Nora. And if you're a prude, I do. So far, every time there was nudity or something like that, there's a safe for work version, and
which is a good idea.
Yeah, nobody buys it, but it's cool to see.
It's available.
It's available for the 3 people that buy it, and so.
Well, it's funny because a bunch of people told me they wanted a black and white edition of my comic, and then nobody bought it.
Oh, really? That's weird.
I take it back. 2 people did it. It didn't justify the expense of the pre-press and everything like that.
Now
I gave them something else instead.
Yeah, what I suggest, because I do stuff like goofy covers that might not sell, and when people ask for things, and you go, I bet I only sell one. Kablam! So my main orders all go through Comics Wellspring. But if I do say I do a variant cover and it only sells 5, because there are people that, oh, what about just the line art, right? Well, if I only sell 5, Kablam does almost the exact same work as Comics Wellspring, but they have no minimum.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah, you can just.
I wish I knew that. I would have given those people what they wanted then. Now I feel bad.
You can just order one and it don't shipping. But other than shipping, like, yeah, it might be $2, $2.50 or something, or $3 for the 2 copies of the issue. But they don't charge you any pre-press or nothing like that, just the shipping. But the shipping will only be $8 or something, $7 or $8, something like that.
That's good to know. Thank you for telling me that.
Yeah, because that's what my order from them is coming in any day now, and I don't know. I haven't looked to see if there's any orders that can be fulfilled with just those. And then Comics Wellspring is hopefully coming next week.
And I will say this, the customer service on Comics Wellspring is excellent.
Yeah, it's very good.
I called those poor ladies and bothered them every day, you know, because I like I said, I discovered a mistake. It was on my fault. You know what I mean? It wasn't them. They did nothing wrong. So I pulled it back, and then I went back to the bottom of the line, and I called them every day. And they were like, no, you're a pleasure, honey. I'm sure when they hung up, they're like, this pain in the ass again. But while I was on the phone, they were sweet. And that's all it takes. Lie to me, right.
Baby. No. Yeah. That's why I originally worked with Mix'em. But if you had a problem, it was always a hassle. And I just had too many problems. And then I got a shipment, I think it was number 5, and a lot of them was damaged.
Oh, really?
And I was like, well, here's the problem. Okay, eventually they'll replace them or refund it, but that's time I don't got, right?
It is Mix'em. It's out of the country too, right?
I think, I'm not certain.
Because Comics Wellspring is in Wisconsin. I got all my comics. Nothing is damaged.
Yeah, they do.
Absolutely nothing is damaged, to the point where I'm like nervous opening up because it's in such good shape. I don't want to be the one to ruin it. And Kablam is almost the exact same paper, the exact same everything. The print quality seems to, so far, I haven't done a huge amount, has been the same. And in fact, for the comics themselves, my whole order for Saving the World number 11 was going to be quite a bit less than Comics Wellspring. So I was kind of like, well, I might go with entirely Kablam this time. And they do posters, so I could do my posters. But I think Comics Wellspring does posters too. Anyways, so I was thinking of doing my whole order there. Then I got to the shipping, and it was insane and undid any saving. So where's Kablam located?
In the United States somewhere, but I don't know. They did it by weight, or something, and so it just wasn't combining. So
Yeah, like I didn't know what I was doing. I had 5 covers, so I made 5 orders, and then I got 5 shipping. And they called me up. They're like, honey, they talked like an old Southern lady. Oh, honey, you could combine them all and save on shipping.
right.
So I was like, I was like a little kid. Like, could you do that for me, please?
Right. Oh,
And
no.
2 days later, I'm getting a refund of $70.
Yeah, right. Because
they were unbelievably good. I will, I'm pretty loyal.
and see, there's tons of things like that people have to keep in mind, because the less you spend,
right,
the more money you make. But also, like, okay, with Kablam,
I got to sneeze.
the discount is basically what it is. You have to buy a lot of comics to get that price any lower. At Comics Wellspring, they're a little higher initially, but there's breaks for how many issues you get. But also at Kablam, it's per order. It's per comic. So if you say have 5 covers, those don't combine for one quantity. It's each one, so you'll never make it. However, at Comics Wellspring, the quantity discounts are for the entire order, even
right.
if different
They blended it all for me. They were super nice. Like I said, I'm pretty loyal. Like, Fund My Comic, Luke went above and beyond to help me out.
Yeah.
So I will stay with him. At Comics Wellspring, I didn't deal with Mixum. I didn't know Kablam, but I'm happy. And there's people in this audience that I know that they got their comics. Can you let me know? Are you happy with the? I think it looks great. The colors look amazing. I can't complain. And this is something that. How long is this? Like you said you originally wanted to do comics. You wouldn't have been able to have like a company print them for you.
No.
I went to my buddy's brother-in-law runs a printing press. They make, like, believe it or not, they still make newspapers. People still get newspapers. And I was like, oh wow, newsprint. Can you print my comic? And he goes, oh yeah, I can print it. Minimum order is like 20,000. He started laughing. I was like,
because when I originally did, I think it was Saving the World. I'm not certain, but I was looking around to get it printed because I was like, get it printed. Maybe, I was very optimistic. And the minimum order was 3,000. And so I needed like $6,000 or $7,000 up front to get this comic printed that I would probably not be able to sell. And so it just never happened. And digital printing is pretty new. I don't know when the first digital printers really opened up, but it was in the 2010s, because I know that there was no digital printing in the 90s and early 2000s, because I would have found it. It was all offset print press, which costs a lot of money. It can print a lot cheaper. So if you're getting
you need a higher amount.
Yeah, if you're getting 20,000 printed, you can do it. But there is no modern comic that's not Batman that needs that big of a print run.
And what you said about digital, I know Brian Bow, that Brian Bow did a page in my comic. You'll work with Brian Bow. I love Brian Bow. He does Wolf and Batsy. He had like graphic novels that print on demand. I forget the name of that. And I love Wolf and Batsy so much. I'm like, I got to get everything by it. I'm that kind of collector. So I got the 4 oversized graphic novels. They are excellently produced.
Yeah.
Like I remember print on demand stuff, and it was garbage. I was
right.
If I got print on demand stuff, I was like, oh man, I got this crap. Like, for me to throw away comics, that's how bad it was. But these are excellent.
Yeah, just in the past, because this is all brand new technology. So the past year or past 5 years that I've been in it, it's changed dramatically. Like the quality and the colors and the print was always good since 2020 when I got into it. But it was this thing where they couldn't use paper that seemed like a real comic. It was always this way too heavy and stiff.
And I remember everything was pixelated, and it just the covers looked out of focus. It was garbage.
Yeah, and so now I don't see, unless I have this runaway hit that I doubt. Digital printing is just far and away. What
Yeah.
time is it? Uh-oh.
It's 10:15. I still didn't eat dinner yet, so I'm getting cranky, and I just will say, Saving the World is really one of my favorite comics coming out. I know me, Tonicmole, goof around a lot, but that's one of the reasons why I enjoy talking with them. We could talk about nothing for 2 hours, this is like the Seinfeld episode of comic chats.
Yeah.
but I consider him a friend, even though we've never met. Like I always joke that if my comic does $100,000, I'm flying my friends. Well, Tonic's one of the people I want at this table. You could be Kiara or Lily and Wep. No, you can't be Wep. If we play a role playing game, you can't. He's too powerful. That'll just ruin the game. You could be Kiara. You know, I really like the comic. I want it to succeed as a fan and you know as a friend. Same with RJ. You know,
Yeah.
If it wasn't for RJ, Tonicmole, Brian Bow, Fabrizio Aiello, who does Horace H. Hoover, I wouldn't have made a comic. Nick Axe, you know, who's drawing for Nick Axe taught me how to use a computer, believe it or not. You know, how to transfer files and how to, you know, there's so much that this community has helped that, you know, I am getting maudlin for a minute, but you know, the truth is the truth. Everybody's just been so helpful, and Tonicmole's been one of the guys. Believe it or not, this is going to sound insulting, but I mean it as a positive thing. When we send messages back, I actually ask him advice on how to run campaigns. Tonic is like the guru. You know, we all ask him how to run campaigns and what to do, when to launch and stuff. And then he comes on my screen and we talk about nonsense for 2 hours. You know?
That's right.
But where were we when we came up with the Eddie is Doomed comic?
No, you know what? I was picturing it like on Twitter, like it was. I typed down.
Oh, you think it was a Twitter thread?
Yeah.
Like it's the worst idea for a comic or something like that?
Yeah, and I went on this. You said something, and then I went on this rant about this guy who's a comic book nerd and gets kicked. Oh, I remember. I know.
You remember?
Yes.
I can't remember. Since my car accident, I can't remember anything. So there you go.
The thread was it was kind of the anti-woke thing, right? And it was, you know, why do they always make the comics about themselves, right? And I was pointing out.
That's right.
I was pointing out that, well, I mean, no, we can't say you shouldn't do that. It shouldn't be I'm Superman, but American Splendor and things like that. And I said, and I pitched the idea of a good comic that is about the writer. And
that's right.
And then the joke was that I'm a loser who collects.
Yeah, then I said, I guess my comic book is about a big fat loser who lives in the basement and collects comic books.
Right.
And you said that's the greatest idea for a comic.
Yeah, and then we just took off with it and had the whole.
By the end of the night, you had Eddie drawn up, if I remember.
Yeah, and I kept going off on this tangent, and I mean, it was all so great. I went on this tangent of because you said something about, oh, Eddie's kind of this, and I was like, yeah, what if he was a bastard? And so everything was like in my head, how bad of a human being could this be? But then you came in with your life experiences, right? And I was like, oh no, this is actually, no, you could make something good. I would just be like,
no.
Eddie
is a good guy, but he's just lazy and he takes the path of least resistance.
Right.
You know what I mean? So he's just like, he doesn't want to hurt anybody. He wants the best for everybody, but he got a job when he was 15 years old working at a supermarket. Mm-hmm. Guess what? He's now the manager of that supermarket. The first job he's ever got that his father made him get is what he stayed with. He lives in his parents' basement. He's not a bad guy. He didn't go to college. That's a lot of work. He runs a supermarket.
Right.
You know.
He hits on 17-year-old girls. He's not.
But in his mind, he's still a 17-year-old guy. You know, like he doesn't realize he's inappropriate. Right. It's not like he's a 40-year-old guy. Like, look at that young girl.
Right.
You know, he's like.
But that makes him kind of horrible. But in a way.
Yeah, he's horrible, but he doesn't. Yeah.
Well,
Eddie is totally flawed.
Right.
but also Eddie is doomed. So
Eddie's doomed. And I don't know if you're doing the same ending, and I hope so. And I it is.
The script that I sent you,
yeah,
I still have that same script. There's a couple of scenes I had to change the order
because
I love that ending.
I won't say nothing. It's so haunting.
I got to send it to Oscar now because Oscar is. But the only thing that I'm changing is I'm expanding the superhero stuff. I want the superhero stuff to be its own story that kind of mirrors Eddie's experiences, and it's kind of a comment. If you get me talking, I'll spoil too much. Next time I'll be telling you about Odin or what's going on with poor Odin in my story. But I like once we started talking about it, I was like, if done well, this could be an important comic. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, and it's one shot. I'm never revisiting Eddie again. And I don't know if I told you about this. Eddie, it's going to be set in the Heroic Tales world. It's 1986. Eddie works in the supermarket where Mary Sue's parents run. So he works for Mary Sue's parents. He works in Sue Mart.
Right.
In Flushing, Queens in 1986. So we got to get some music, and
yeah.
I will say Eddie's friend is a bad person. The guy who runs the comic book store, he's a bad person, but not Eddie. Eddie's just a flower floating in the breeze.
Yeah.
Because I always want there to be somebody to root for.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like I want that, but you're rooting for Eddie, but Eddie's doomed. He's just doomed.
And I see a lot, just like the fact that this came from a thread saying not to do this, right?
Right.
And I think
don't tell me not to do something.
Right. And every thread that says something like that, I'm like, no. As a writer, it's about doing it right, not about what you do. Everything can be done well.
Oscar, I'm glad you're part of this team. Did I show you Oscar's designs for the superheroes?
I think so.
Yeah. While we're talking, I'll bring up some of those. But it's funny that you said that because just yesterday I was talking with Brian Bow, and he showed me a thread of a guy said, "Don't make any characters morally gray. Make characters
right."
And at first I was like, "Yeah, you're right," because I was thinking of superheroes because superheroes are my thing.
Right. And
then I was like, "Wait a minute, like you can have a morally gray detective or a cowboy." And then Brian sends me a message. It says the same thing.
Right. Well, yeah, because okay, so
another thread telling us not what to do, and already I'm like, no, I'm you're wrong because I have a Western story that I want to do where the main character Ostrander, he's doing the right thing for the wrong reasons,
right?
Or maybe he's doing the wrong thing for the right reasons. I haven't figured quite yet. I'm still working on it.
Here's a great thing. Okay, the same people saying I don't like morally gray characters wearing a Punisher shirt. And I'm like,
yeah,
what do you think? The Punisher, Venom, all your favorite superheroes. That's
the original Wolverine wasn't supposed to be a hero,
Wolverine is a great example of a morally gray. He's a very light gray,
right?
Morally gray nonetheless. But done right, everything's good.
Right, exactly. Done right. That's like we'll get back to my writing teacher. Here's a guy from Mexico writing about Irish immigrants, you know what I mean? But he was making sure he crossed the T's and dotted the I's because the last thing he wanted to be was called on was like, messing up a culture that's not his own.
Right. And you look, I was watching Andy Griffith show from 1960. And there was this episode to where Ellie Walker, who is Andy's girlfriend at the time, she runs the drugstore, and she decides she's going to run for city council. And Andy is like, no, women can't run for city council. They're just not made for the government and stuff, right? And the whole episode is this sex war breaks out between the men and women. The women saying, women can do this, and the men in the town saying, no, I haven't seen these.
Or you haven't seen. So these are some of the superheroes. This was Oscar, like, because I told him there's going to be a Golden Age version and a Silver Age version. So so the first one was Bikini Girl. Bikini Girl was literally a character that I've had in my head for 20 years. She's a woman who gets her powers because she was there at the Noble Bikini Atoll when they tested a nuclear bomb. So she has nuclear powers.
Mm-hmm.
So she's the Golden Age version. She has a yellow costume, red hair, super buxom. But then the Silver Age version, she's more lithe, you know. So Oscar just nailed it out. That first one in the yellow is the Golden Age, and then the fourth one is going to be the Silver Age version. The other two were him playing around. Then there's Doomkeeper. He's the main bad guy, and then there's Big Brother, the mysterious Watcher type character. You know, these are supposed to be familiar but different.
Right.
But then, I just told Oscar Caesar, and then he was like, "Oh, he's like a Russian," and then I was like, do you know, like right now everybody's talking about the Tartarian Empire? So he and the mud floods. Well, he was from the Tartarian. He got flushed into the water and he became Caesar. So he's like, you know, this Russian. What's the mad monk? Rasputin from the Beneath the Sea.
Yeah.
And then I just gave him one word, alienator, and this is what Oscar came up with. How cool is that?
Yeah, that's awesome.
And then the Tombstone Kid. He's an undead cowboy because I was like, I'm trying to goof on Silver Age DC.
Right.
DC had cowboys and horror. So the Tombstone Kid. I just want to turn this on because nobody needs to see the conversations that me and Oscar have in between. This one, I don't know why. This is just, I crack up at this character and she has no purpose whatsoever other than to make me laugh. But Cat Nurse. And the origin of Cat Nurse is, I was thinking of like Julia Schwartz and Gardner Fox talking like, what do girls like? We need more girls, like the cigars.
Right.
What do girls like? And the other goes, they like cats. And the other guys, they like nurses. There you go, Cat Nurse. There you go, make a comic. So her joke is going to be walking around the comic. Why am I here? Cat Nurse.
For covers.
Yeah, for covers.
Get in the furries.
Because that's what girls like. You know,
Yeah.
you guys who don't understand what girls like, pushing what girls like. And then we got black and white drawings. But wait, there's one more I wanted. Oscar really loves one of his designs. Why can't I find it? This is going to drive me. This is another one. I pictured Julie Schwartz and Gardner Fox like, what sells comics? Robots and gorillas. Well, then we got Robot Gorilla.
Right.
So the Robot Gorilla, is he a good guy? Is he a bad guy? It depends on who reprogrammed Robot Gorilla.
Right.
But I love these because like I gave bad sketches to Oscar and he just, you know, I already got like Brian Bowes, like I want to draw one of these characters. You know,
Yeah.
I already got like fan art of some of these characters. You know, people. This is the mystery. So the Golden Age and the Silver Age, the mystery. He's going to be like the magician character. I love these. So once I saw Oscar doing these sketches, I was like, I got to expand. I got to expand the superhero stuff because it's just too good not to. So this is going to be Femfire. So she's, you know, and she only exists in the 70s because they were like, women's lib is hot now. So
right.
so she's the women's lib hero. You know, I'm trying to like goof on all of the trends. This was the one I was looking for, but these were the original characters. How do I share? There we go. I forget how to share. Oh, I still didn't share. But if you could see my drawings that I sent to Oscar and then what he took, but Phenomenal Man. So he's the Superman.
Yeah.
And then Thunder Woman, she's the Wonder Woman ripoff. And, you know, just look at that. The Golden Age with the, you know, I always picture the Golden Age like bigger thighs, and the Silver Age is they're more like svelte and everything.
Yeah.
I love these designs. So we got the Golden Age. All the way in the top row, all the way to the right is the Golden Age Phenomenal Man, and then all the way to the left is the Silver Age.
Yeah.
I just love these. I love these. So if Eddie is Doomed does well, I want to follow it up with origins of all of these characters. So
Yeah.
the comics that Eddie reads are top comics, and there's top comics and there's Premier Comics. Top Comics is DC, Premier Comics is Marvel. Top Comics wants to, why aren't we doing as good as Premier Comics? So they're gonna have a Crisis on Infinite Earths. They're gonna, and so the top 10 is the name of the team that, so I want to follow it up with the origins of the top 10, the Golden Age, and origins of the top 10 Silver Age, and make 2 different books. And I want to have like different artists. Like I'll write all their origins, unless you got a great story and you want to, and then have different artists. Oh, Captain Arachnid. How did I forget Captain Arachnid? But I needed one more to fill out the 10. And I was just like, okay, Captain Arachnid, and I just threw him out there. And then Oscar, that's his favorite. He just went and drew Captain Arachnid. Now I'm just scrolling through everything so I could find him. But it is so good. And then I started telling him what Captain Arachnid, and Oscar goes, "No, that's not Captain. That's not Captain." Like he's telling me, I'm like, "That's all right. That's great. That's better." I'd rather have him something. Oh, I'm showing too much here. Let me. There we go. But this is the Golden Age Captain Arachnid. He's like a super spy, like the Shadow or Lobster Johnson. And then I was like, well, the Silver Age has to be more like science-y, so he's more like an alien. So just check this out. And wrong switch. And this is the Silver Age Captain Arachnid. How like the Golden Age Green Lantern was more like mystical, and then the Silver Age Green Lantern we all know is the space cop. Yeah, I love these. I'm so excited. And they're supposed to be tongue in cheek, kind of hokey, but this is all for a comic. Your script, I'm just reworking the bugs out. Fine tuning it. Like, you're never done with the script until you have to just be like, go do it.
Right.
And then Oscar's. I already started a few things, but fulfillment. I just put everything down and
right
my comic. So I'll be writing for the next couple of days. Now that I get rid of those 17 prodigal packages that didn't want to leave my house. I got to get them out, and then it's full steam on. Heroic Tales 2 is already written and being drawn, so nothing is stopping me from finishing this up now. And I don't know. I'm excited, and I probably gave away more than I should.
You got to start the hype train somehow.
Yeah. I'm actually going to start making stickers, and that circular Eddie. I want to get that on stickers and start putting that in, mailers and showing that. Go buy comics. That's a good way to end this. Go buy comics, ladies and gentlemen.
Right.
So I got excited. You got me pontificating, but Saving the World, it's one of my favorite comics. It's a proof that advertising works, or it's proof that I'm susceptible. Either one.
You're very susceptible to propaganda.
I would love to get. I'd love to get Illustrator to like do like an 8-page story of it has to be one of the women.
Yes.
Yep. Oscar has a comic out, Rome Eternal. Number 1 is in the stores now by Magma Comics. It's like a reimagining of the Roman Empire. It's as if Jack Kirby was an emperor in the Roman Empire, because it's like the New Gods meet the Roman Empire. It's good stuff. It's so good. Number 2 is coming out in December, so there you go. There's so many good comics if you go looking for them. So, anything you want to say before we close this down? Before I start telling the plot to my Odin comic?
I think I said it all.
You said it all. All right. I'll see you guys. What am I doing? Tomorrow's Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Friday I have Mike Barron at 7 p.m. and then it's clobber time around 8:30. We're going to talk about Hellboy versus Etrigan the Demon. So we'll from Hell episode, and as always, it's an open invite for its clobbering time. It's supposed to be comic fans arguing about who would win in a fight. So Oh, that's right. Oscar and Tonic, we all got to be in a chat together and talk. That's right.
Yes.
I forget. I introduced the same guy to the same people 20 times, and then this guy I never introduced you to one. My whole life. I'm like, oh, I thought you guys knew each other. All right, but I'm talking too much now. Coffee's kicking in. All right.
See ya.
Bye-bye.